Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. There are so many boxing themes to cover today. But first and foremost, I want to start off with something controversial, something that will divide opinion and really strikes at some important topics regarding the sport, particularly the power structure of the sport. And let's start off with Ben Shalom. Now, by now, you guys are probably aware of this, and I'll talk to you about his interview that he's given since, but he's basically been recorded asking a journalist not to ask him certain questions regarding DAZN, Probellum, Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua. This was a very prominent boxing news site, an online channel, and he did not realize that he was being recorded at the time. The cameras were rolling, and he just basically came over and said, listen, don't ask me about this or that. He said, no problem. The interview begun. Now, that footage has now been leaked. Whether it was leaked on purpose or by accident, Ben Shalom has an opinion on that. We're going to speak about that moving forward. But the question here is one of whether Ben Shalom did something immoral. This is something that occurs in the sport all the time, right? If you think that it doesn't, I'm afraid you're a little bit idealistic, put it that way. I've mentioned it many times on this channel before, and the reason it's potentially a problem, and I'm not talking about Ben Shalom in this specific instance, because in this specific instance, he may not have been wrong to say what he said, right? But we'll also get to that later on. But generally speaking, the reason this is a problem is because promoters can deny reporters access if they don't like the questions they're being asked. Hatman, for instance, has been very praising of Eddie Hearn in the past, and so have I, because he's always the sort of guy that seems to accept difficult questions. I'm not one of these people that is Matchroom FC or Team Frank Warren or Team PBC or Bob Arum or any of that stupidness. To me, when you start to go down that route, all you do is create problems in boxing, because what you do is you enable promoters to allow their fighters to avoid one another. And this is another important topic which Ben Shalom actually touches upon in this interview, so we will get to that. Now, when it comes to this issue, however, you've seen in the past Kugan Cassius was denied access to Klitschko Fury because Team Klitschko did not like the fact that Kugan Cassius had a friendly relationship with Tyson Fury. To me, that is ludicrous. He's a reporter. He's a British boxing reporter. He had a good relationship with a British boxing fighter. He didn't say anything out of hand. What Team Klitschko did was completely out of line. Now, had Klitschko beaten Fury, Kugan Cassius may never have been allowed access again to the heavyweight champion of the world. You see how that can affect your channel, that can affect your business, and so reporters fall into line more often than not. We've seen a lot of criticism about reporters regarding the Billy Joe Saunders saga, where allegedly interviews were taken down at the request of the fighter or the fighter's team. A lot of people gave them a lot of backlash for that, but you have to try and understand the position of the reporters too. They're trying to earn a living out there. And whilst there's always room for investigative journalism, and you're always going to want a breaking news story, particularly if it's one that they don't want in the public eye, if it's a really juicy story, you want that, right? And journalism's integrity needs that. And believe me, there aren't too many real journalists left in the world. And most of them are activists that call themselves journalists. They have an agenda now, and they're part of that agenda. But for those real journalists, the investigative ones, they tend to be independent. And a lot of these boxing media channels are also trying to get their head above the water, and they're trying to make a living. With regards to access being denied, a lot of fans are demanding, I don't care, you need to have your integrity. You need to go in there and ask the tough questions. But here's the thing. If those journalists are no longer given access, and they don't start providing the content, are you as a fan going to start boycotting those events? It might be a fight you really want to see, right? You're not going to buy the pay-per-view. You're not going to watch the pay-per-view because there's been an injustice. No, you're not. You're going to watch that fight. And you're going to stop following the journalist who hasn't been able to get access. If he's not putting out videos that you want to watch, you're not going to be tuning in. His views are going to drop. His income's going to drop. So it's easier said than done, but you have to try and understand their position. Now, having said that, in this particular instance, did Ben Shalom actually do anything wrong? And what are going to be the repercussions of this particular thing? Well, first and foremost, he came out and he said, look, I didn't get into the sport to talk about other promoters and other fighters that have nothing to do with me. That's not what we're in it for. And I don't see anything wrong with what I said. When I don't have anything to say about it, and I don't know what's going on, I don't know what it is, what's the point in talking about it? To me, it's just principle. I knew it was coming. I don't want to get into it. They're looking for bait. and they want me to get into a back and forth. We see it with Leonard Ellaby and Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. I enjoy it, but it's not what I'm focused on and not what I enjoy. In other words, I think he's saying I enjoy watching it, but it's not what I would enjoy doing. He goes on to say, those are subjects that have nothing to do with me. Again, it's not something I want to get into. I get it, the views. I get it that it's entertaining. I get that everyone loves it. I 100% get it. But then he contradicts himself a little bit. And he says, I think people respect me for it. I think people are sick of the back and forth and this and that. But a moment ago, Ben, you just said people love it. You see, Ben here, I think, is in a little bit of a panic. There's a bit of an inexperience going on here. But to be honest with you, I get what he's saying, right? People love the drama, but I don't want to get into the back and forth. I feel he should have said that on camera, to be honest with you, rather than asking journalists not to ask him the questions. It comes across as more genuine, even though in this particular case, I don't think he's done anything malicious at all. Having said that, the whole thing of this back and forth, I also get that perhaps it's an area of self-preservation. If you say one thing that Frank Warren doesn't like, you've potentially then got an issue whereby Boxer can't work with Queensbury, or Boxer might not be able to work with Matchroom, or PBC, or Top Rank, or whoever else that he might rub up the wrong way. This is one of the things I'm so critical about when it comes to American boxing. We have a situation, right, where people are talking about not just crossing the street, but fans are talking about potential fights between fighters that should be happening. And you hear the fans themselves say, well, yeah, but he's on another network, so we've got to be realistic. That's not going to happen. Fans can't even get excited about fights that should be happening because these promoters' egos are so big, they're not willing to put them aside to make the big fights happen. So, of course, Ben Shalom, who's inexperienced, is going to be somewhat careful. He doesn't want to burn any bridges with anybody. He wants to be able to work with everybody. And who can blame him when he can see what he's seeing? So what happens from here? What are the repercussions? Well, here's what he said about this particular boxing channel. I've never seen that before, and I think it's pretty below the belt type of thing, but it's shown them for what they are. The bigger point is someone filming that and putting it out. That was out of order. That could have been anything. It's a warning sign. Luckily for me, I stand behind what I said, but it could have been worse. That's a breach of trust. That's a serious thing. Now, here's the issue. Should this particular media organization now be denied access? See, he's seeing it as a breach of trust. Now, they didn't have to leak it, right? They could have told him, Ben, this is going out. The minute he said, I don't want you guys asking me these questions, they could have come out and said, actually, Ben, we're journalists. If it's really about integrity, right? They could have said, we're journalists. We're going to ask you whatever we want, Ben, and you don't have to answer, but we're going to ask those questions. And we're going to put out the interview. Ben Shalom would have then had the right to say, fine, I'm not giving you the interview. That would have been a really bad look for Ben Shalom and Boxer, right? But to secretly film him and then put it out there, that does strike me as a dangerous thing to do, put it that way, for the long-term success of your company. Because now, who else is going to distrust you? You see what I'm saying? So this whole thing's a mess. But really, the best approach is the Eddie Hearn approach. Ask me whatever you want, and I'll answer as honestly as I can. And if I'm not going to be honest, I might spin it. And if you see through the spin, that's up to you. That's the fans that can do that. Or alternatively, I'm going to give you a very corporate and professional answer, which he has done when he's been asked about very controversial topics. I genuinely think that's the best way. So I have to tip my hat to Eddie Hearn. Ben Shalom, he's handled this with a bit of inexperience, but I understand why he's done what he's done. But let me know what your opinion is on all this. Who's at fault? What do you want to see happen here moving forward? How should journalists act? Do you understand why they play by the rules that are given to them by the promoters? Do promoters have way too much power? Should they not be allowed to deny access to reporters based on any sporting event? Should there be some sort of measure in place? How realistic is that, though? Let me know what you think. And sticking along the lines of Ben Shalom, he has, of course, signed Joseph Parker, and he's speaking about a potential rematch with Dillian Whyte. Joseph Parker, of course, there was talk about him fighting Joe Joyce. And Ben Shalom did say the wonderful thing about signing Joseph Parker is that he's willing to fight anyone. Well, if that's the case, I think the demand really was more for the Parker-Joyce fight, particularly among hardcores. I can't really speak for the casuals. Maybe the name recognition of Whyte would make it a more popular fight amongst the casuals, particularly if they remember the unbelievably exciting barn burner they had the first time around. Either fight, for me, would be a terrific fight to watch. Now, sticking along the lines of the promoters, without really making it about the promoters. Let's talk of O'Hara Davies fighting Sandor Martin. And for those of you that remember, O'Hara Davies has a serious issue with Eddie Hearn, accusing him of throwing him under the bus. O'Hara is already talking smack on Twitter. I know a lot of people are saying, who's O'Hara thought of late? I don't want to see this fight, and so on and so forth. I spoke to Charles George on Twitter. Shout out to him. He was unhappy about it. Personally, I love it. Boxing and sport in general is about the drama. Okay, a lot of guys have to self-promote. The way O'Hara Davies was treated, in my opinion, was wrong. I don't believe he said anything with any malicious intent. He was speaking to a boxer from Hull, and he mentioned the Sun newspaper. How people connected that to Hillsborough, I'll never know. It's not like he's from Liverpool and it was some sort of malicious dig. It was the biggest selling national newspaper at the time. He mentioned it. I really don't see the controversy here. But things weren't going great in the career of O'Hara Davies, and he was let go. And many cynics, O'Hara himself, feel that Eddie Hearn decided to throw him under the bus. Now, I can't possibly speak about the motivations of Eddie Hearn, whether he thought, I'm going to cut this guy loose, or whether he was just so afraid of the backlash that he made a business decision. I don't know. Either way, and I was just praising of Eddie Hearn, right? But either way, I have to be critical here because I felt O'Hara Davies was mistreated. And you can never underestimate the motivation of a man who feels he has suffered an injustice. O'Hara would have that bit between his teeth, man. He would really want to win this fight. He's already speaking about wanting to destroy Eddie Hearn. And obviously the drama and the build-up alone would be pay-per-view. Do you remember how Eddie Hearn was really rattled at the hands of David Haye when he was going to fight Tony Bellew? He really bit up when he was accused of loving a dollar bill, right? Can you honestly not imagine O'Hara Davies getting him to bite up? I just think the build-up would be brilliant. But let me know what you think about that. Are you excited about that fight? And moving on, let's talk about Anthony Joshua signing with DAZN instead of Sky Sports, something that will make Eddie Hearn a very, very happy man. And they've taken the page out of KILLIAN M'BAPPE's book because he has got stakes as shareholder now in DAZN. Mbappe not with DAZN, of course, but with PSG. And PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, the football club, as an organisation, if you look at them like an organisation and not a football club, a company, they're quite similar to DAZN in the sense that they're relatively new kids on the block that are throwing an awful lot of money to try and become a dominant force. And he is one of the world's best players, and they've ensured that they've managed to keep their signature man by giving him a massive contract, and they've given him stakes in the club. And this has happened with Anthony Joshua. He will have a share in DAZN. And we'll talk about that and the strategy that DAZN might have going forward, because I think they're missing a trick with something. Anthony Joshua himself said DAZN's vision and passion to innovate is what attracted me to the partnership. They are leading the digital landscape in sport and the future of sports broadcasting. I'm really looking forward to a long and successful partnership. He's obviously very happy to be with them. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying that Usyk fight is even more important now because if he loses that, what could that mean for the future of DAZN and so on and so forth? I don't think it matters that much in terms of the marketing power of Anthony Joshua. He's still going to be a very big star. Of course, he'll be an even bigger star if he wins the rematch. I'm not saying that that doesn't matter at all. But like they can't sell the likes of a Dillian White fight with the build-up there and the history there, or Joe Joyce, or whoever else, even if Anthony Joshua was to lose. So it's a major coup for DAZN. However, it's a DAZN pay-per-view. And I think they've missed a trick here. What they need to be doing, in my humble opinion, is existing subscribers or subscribers that are willing to sign up for 3 months, say, should be getting a massively reduced discounted rate. Because your aim, if you're DAZN, is not to have a customer pop in for a one-off fight. Your aim is to have customers that are going to stand by you, that are going to stick with you and help the platform grow in that manner. And because Anthony Joshua is now a stakeholder, it's essentially kind of like a lawyer who's done really well and worked at a company for a very long time and suddenly becomes a partner, right? So it's in his best interest for DAZN as a whole to grow. So let's say, for example, they're going to set it at £25 as a pay-per-view. That seems to be the typical price that's going around these days. Why not give it to existing subscribers at something like £10, right? Or those that are willing to sign up for the next 3 months as well, give it to them for £10. That way what you're doing is you're going to get these casuals that are going to want to cross over just to watch Anthony Joshua. They'll say, you know what, if I'm going to give £25 for the pay-per-view and I can get it for a tenner, I don't know, man, I might as well give the extra subscription and get it for the next 3 months, right? I might as well do that, get it on the cheap, and who knows, I might see other fights that I like. A portion of those will watch more fights, and they might end up thinking, you know what, I'm actually going to keep DAZN. Because the hardcores are going to stick with DAZN anyway, and the big fans of Anthony Joshua, the casuals, are going to buy the pay-per-view anyway. So what your real aim has to be is the retention of custom. And so I'm not sure. I think they might be missing a trick here if they don't go down that route. Let me know what you think about the business model and what you think could occur here with Anthony Joshua and DAZN. Moving on from that, let's talk about Archie Sharp and Shakur Stevenson. This is something else that has rubbed people up the wrong way, and again, I don't understand why. He's put out an interview to say, I'm living in Shakur Stevenson's head rent-free. And a lot of people are furious. Archie Sharp, what are you chatting about? Who have you fought? You're a nobody. Now, Archie Sharp's a very talented fighter, right? I've spoken about him in the past for a very long time now. For a number of years, I've spoken about the talent of Archie Sharp. I've seen him train up close and personal, and I know he's very, very light on his feet, a really good mover. Regardless of whether he's ready to fight a Shakur Stevenson or not, I'm not sure why people are wound up by this statement, because the truth is Shakur should not be thinking of Archie Sharp at all, and yet he's making references to him. After Joe Cordina won his world title with a fantastic knockout, Shakur Stevenson put out this tweet to say, told you all he's the best fighter at 130 from England. I would love to come to England for some smoke, though, champ. Congratulations, Joe Cordina. Now, let's pretend that Joe Cordina is English and not Welsh. I know a lot of the Welshmen and women out there were furious with this. But regardless of that, why is he even making this little dig at Archie Sharp? This is a reference to Archie Sharp. Now, this is the point I'm making. If you are Archie Sharp and you have not fought anywhere near that level, your talent is irrelevant. You have managed to put yourself in the public eye. This is self-promotion. This is what you want from fighters. People should be praising Archie. You might not want to see that fight. You might be thinking, what are you talking about, man? He ain't at Shakur Stevenson's level. But why are people angry about it? Don't hold it against him. This is what fighters are supposed to do. And also, he does provide something a little bit different. He's tall and rangy. You can see the movement here. So even if they were to fight next against this, superstar of a fighter in Shakur Stevenson, even if he was to fight him next, he maybe gives Shakur something he's not faced before. A tall, rangy fighter with great movement that can maintain range. Of course, Shakur would be the strong favourite. But don't you want to see guys take on different challenges and different styles? Why would you be angry at Archie Sharp? That's my take on it. Let me know what you think. And moving on from that, Mick Conlan has come out and expressed his frustration, saying that he has tried everything he can to get the rematch against Leigh Wood. Conlan explained that he would be desperate to take the fight, but the WBA have ordered a consolidation fight between Wood and the super champion Leo Santa Cruz. There's no guarantee that that will happen, but it is going to purse bids. There's also the Josh Warrington fight that Leigh Wood has said he'd be willing to take for less money. Now, Conlan is saying, in his opinion, that's just dumb and that people would love to see the rematch. And listen, as a fan, I would love to see the rematch. I am a fan of rematches in various guises, not always immediate rematches. Sometimes I believe it should be, after 2 or 3 fights that they've had or whatever. In this particular case, this is a rematch that I would definitely not mind seeing the immediate rematch. It was a terrific fight. Nonetheless, to be fair, I understand Leigh Wood's approach, and I would be equally excited about seeing him fight Warrington or even Santa Cruz. So he's got so much on his plate, so many options. Can you really blame him if he does go down another route? And finally, let's talk about ERROL SPENCE. He has decided to plead guilty for driving under the influence for his 2019 car crash. Look how horrific that was. It really was a miracle that he pulled through. Praise the Lord, because God had other plans for ERROL SPENCE. How he survived this, I will never know. You just look at the state of him, how he became in the aftermath of his car wreck and things like that. Thank God he's pulled through. He came out and he said, I was hanging out and having some drinks with friends and ended up wrecking my car and nearly killing myself. I can spread a very powerful message. Don't drink and drive. Not one drink. It's not worth it. Now, when you are one of the best fighters in the sport and you're coming out and you're saying these sorts of things, a lot of kids look up to you. Hopefully kids will listen, and you never know, it could save lives, right? His misfortune to have the crash combined with his fortune to survive may indeed provide some guidance for other people in the future. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what your opinions are on all that we've spoken about. Please hit a jab on that like button, a right cross on that notifications button, and a lead uppercut on that subscribe button. Chat to you all soon. Take care. God bless.